Welcome to Sports and Business. Today you will hear about how important your health is for your performance. I am Kerstin Thürmer, high performance and mindset coach and passionate endurance athlete. I help people to achieve their life goals with full energy in business and in sports. Subscribe to my show to not miss any episodes. Today, my wonderful guest is core nutrition specialist, health optimization pro. She holds a master in personalized nutrition and a number of certifications in functional nutrition, yoga, and wellness coaching. She helps high-performing people put their diet and lifestyle on track so that they have sustainable energy, brain power, and productivity. Welcome, Monique Jhingon.
Hi, Kirsten. Thank you for having me. I'm so looking forward to our conversation today.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to have you, Monique. So I'm a high-performance coach. Monique, what is performance for you?
Well, performance in my mind is basically the ability to achieve the results that you desire to achieve. And so it's very individual at the end of the day, isn't it? It could be from an athletic perspective that, somebody desires to break their record, or somebody desires to, increase their, performance on whether it is the court or in, marathon or, things like that. It could be a person who wants to improve their performance, and that means, growing their career or their business, or, it's so individual for different people. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's all about knowing what your goals are and doing the things that you need to do in order to achieve them.
Yeah, and I fully agree on that. It is totally individual. It could be a sports objective, a certain amount on your bank account, career step. But yeah. I think everything has in common here is how can we ever achieve anything of our objectives when our health is not at its best?
No, absolutely. I think, the things that we need in order to achieve the things that we want to achieve, our energy and focus and productivity and, a certain mindset. And all of that requires optimal health. If you don't have your health in place, then how are you going to have sustainable energy? If you don't sleep well, how are you going to wake up fresh and have that focus that you need for your day? And so there's definitely a huge component in health and how we make sure that we are the healthiest that we can be. Yeah, I agree.
Who can you actually help? Isn't that any person on this planet who could come to you?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, anybody who needs to figure out how to put their diet and lifestyle on track, I think I would be able to be in a position to help with. But I have chosen to focus on a certain niche market. I've chosen to focus on people who are high performance individuals, people who, are entrepreneurs and senior executives. And I think the reason for that is twofold. I naturally over time kind of started working more and more with these kind of individuals. And somehow, it felt really right. You kind of click with a certain person. These are people that, are easy to make decisions. They're hungry. They want to learn. So it ended up being the kind of client that I really enjoy working with. And then secondly, I feel like if you look at an organization, for example, change starts at the top. So if you are talking to a senior leader or a leader in business, or, somebody who runs a company, if they, start doing the things that help them in their health, and they learn what it takes, to eat right and to look after and to incorporate self-care into their routine, it's automatically going to trickle down into the rest of the organization. People see it. Their moods become more balanced, their productivity increases. It has a ripple effect on the entire organization. So it's almost like I feel by doing this work with these type of individuals, there is that ripple effect on a much larger audience just in and of itself. I don't know if that makes sense, but
It does. Yeah, it does. I understand while you can help anybody, you focus on that target group, but then to
yeah.
influence also the organization, for example, underneath.
Yeah. I think these people just typically impact a lot of lives. And so I think by doing this, I'm trying to create a ripple effect that touches more people than just the people that I am, directly working with.
Yeah. So what do you look at when people come to you?
Okay, so most people that come to me have a health issue that they're trying to resolve. It's very rare that there's a person who feels really great, actually seeks help, right, with their health. So usually people have something wrong. It could be that their digestion is not functioning optimally, or their energy is not consistent, or maybe they've gone and done certain lab tests and there's some frightening results in there, whether it's cholesterol or blood pressure or blood sugar. I mean, there's usually something that they are struggling with. And so what I do is I break it up into 3 steps with that. I help them, first of all, address the foundation. Really, at the end of the day, there are certain things that you need to have in place. Everybody needs to have in place in order to have a strong foundation and all those fundamentals. So what that means is things that, like, you need to eat a diet that's right for you. You need to, sleep well. You need to manage your stress levels. You need to exercise in a way that is appropriate for you. All these things need to be put into place. So what I do is I help them figure out what is it that they need, their bio-individual requirements. And because, I think one of my main philosophies is that there's no one fit for all approach. There's no one diet that works for everybody, right? Everybody is completely unique. And that has something to do with where they come from, their genetics, their environment, their health history, how their circumstances at the moment. I mean, there's so many things that influence your unique individuality that it is really, really most important, I think, to figure out what your body needs, to understand your body better, and to figure out what it is that it needs. So that's step number 1. I take them through a process where we really go into that in a lot of detail. And we figure out what works for them best, and that takes a little while. And once that is put into place, then we move into the next step, and that is looking at individually what is their state of, I like to call it, deficiency, and moving them to a level of sufficiency. So, for example, it could be, now, taking vitamin D for an example, right? I mean, a lot of people are deficient in vitamin D for whatever the reason may be. So we need to figure out for every individual, what are the things that they need to top up? And it might be momentarily, it might just be initially to get them to a good level. But these are the things I figure out with them, and we do that through testing, through assessments, symptoms. I basically help them identify where they need to restore those levels. It could also be in the area of digestion, for example. Now, if somebody is having issues with digesting or absorbing food, I help them figure out, if there's anything within their digestive system that needs topping up. Some people need to boost their stomach acid levels, for example. So those are the things that I help them figure out in stage 2. And then stage 3 is all about dismantling dysfunction, if there is any of that left after we've done the foundational work. And what I mean by that is that, some people have certain imbalances that are quite deep rooted. And that may need a little bit of extra investigation. Okay, so again, let me just think of an example. The person who has lingering gut issues. Now, we've done the foundation. We've sort of worked on helping to support digestion in every possible way, and they're still not where they would like to be. We may need to do a gut microbiome analysis or a gut test, just to identify what's really happening under the hood. What is it that is going on that we can't see, but that a test may help reveal. So those are basically essentially the 3 stages that I work with when I work with clients.
Yeah, what is very interesting for me here is that it's really individual. So there is not that one diet which fits all. And I've tried a lot myself, but yeah, you need to find your own personal way, and you support your clients in figuring out what's best for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that is, something that you can do to a certain extent on your own, but it helps to have somebody to guide you through the process. So not just me, but there are, plenty of people out there really that kind of are able to identify things like food reactivity. I mean, it could be that you're eating a perfectly healthy diet that is in a way right for you, but you're still feeling certain symptoms. So, somebody, an experienced practitioner like myself, can actually help figure out those connections. So that whole system of tracking, incorporating certain changes, tracking to see how it's influencing you and your health, and then fine tuning on the basis of those symptoms and those results to make it truly an approach that is applicable to you as an individual. Yeah.
So you just mentioned the gut briefly. Would you say that this is still underestimated, and why is it so important at all?
Yeah, I think it's super important. I think, and it's a true passion of mine. And, if we have a chance to get into it, I can tell you a little bit about my story and why. But I feel really, okay, for a couple of reasons. One is that it's really from a health perspective, right? We can go back many, many moons to, philosophers who said that health begins in the gut or disease begins in the gut, right? It's something that, even the most ancient of health practices still believe in, right? It's our core. It's really where health begins or disease originates. And I think one of the reasons for that is that it's where food meets our physiology. It's where food gets broken down, it gets absorbed. So if you can eat everything, all the healthy foods on the planet, but if your body's not able to break it down properly and absorb it properly, it's not going to reach your cells and your tissues and the places where it needs to go. So I think gut health is super important. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, and there are a lot of things that can go wrong because of, our current way of living and our environment and, stress levels and, all the things that are going on around us that are, influencing that particular area. And then the second thing is that we have this whole ecosystem that lives within our gastrointestinal tract called the gut microbiome. And I think that's an area of research that's completely exploded. It's just becoming more and more clear that these microorganisms that live within our digestive tract, they rule our biology. They actually influence things ranging from our immune function to our metabolism to our brain health. I mean, they are involved in almost all our biological processes. And again, because of our lifestyles in general, the gut microbiome has been compromised in a lot of people, and it can have something to do with, having taken too many antibiotics over your entire lifetime, or, we can now even trace it back to your health as a baby and whether you were breastfed and how you were born. Were you born, through a vaginal delivery, or was it through a C-section? That, in itself impacts the way our gut microbiome is established. Medication, stress, toxins, so many things that really influence that gut microbiome. And I think it is really a key, and I like to, look at that as one of the core foundational elements in the work that I do with my client, just making sure that health there is restored, and, and that then kind of sets them up for the rest of their lives in terms of being healthy in a sustainable way. Yeah.
Yeah. So what impacts the clients or the people in general is the lack of energy, but we may not understand where this is coming from, especially what you just said, Monique. If we are eating a pretty healthy diet and we move and we work out, we sleep well, but there could still be so many things in this complexity of our body that we may need somebody to understand how this is all related.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's hard to figure that out on your own, I think. I think gut health is important. When you're talking about energy in specific, there's many other things that are important, right? So that takes us back to those foundational elements. We need to be eating a diet that's right for us. We need to sleep. We need to make sure that we get our hours of sleep. We need to make sure that we reduce the stress in our lives. And if we can't reduce the stress in our lives, we need to make sure that we manage it and that we, engage in self-care and that we do the things that help us shift from that, that sympathetic state of fight and flight response into a, rest and digest, a more parasympathetic state. So that's crucial as well. Exercise, as you mentioned, exercise and movement are essential as well, making sure that not only you are exercising and are doing all the things that, help your muscle mass and your cardiovascular fitness levels, but movement throughout the day. I mean, how many of us are sitting on our chair all day long, right? And not moving around enough. So yeah, these are all very essential in making sure that we have consistent energies as foundational elements. Yeah.
Yeah, and talking about exercising, sports training, you can also exaggerate, right? You could train too much at night or just too many hours and also, do some harm. Anything which we exaggerate may go into the wrong direction.
Yeah. The chronic cardio, for example, is a stressor on the body. And so it's important to manage that as well. And that's when I say bio-individual approach to exercise, that's what I mean, making sure that you approach this again from that whole individualized perspective. What does your body need? And that depends again on your what you do and your age and so many factors. Yeah, but it's very important to personalize it, definitely.
So when myself and our listeners feel that they could have more energy in their lives in general for anything we like to do you have any short tips and tricks for us without going into too much depth?
Yeah, well, I think it must have come through quite clearly that I believe in personalization, but yeah, there's obviously always things that we can do that apply to everyone, right? Okay, let me just think of my top 3 tips and when it comes to energy. So I think the first one, which is really simple, and it's what I start off with all my clients, the first thing I tell them or ask them actually is that, are you drinking enough water? And it's so basic, but you can't even believe how many people actually say that, oh, I don't, maybe not, maybe I'm not drinking enough. So I think that's step number 1. I think in terms of our physical performance, our mental performance, even the mildest form of dehydration can influence our mood and our concentration. So hydrating, number 1. Yeah. Making sure that you drink, I would say there's a personalization aspect to it, but on average, maybe about 8 glasses of water a day, just to keep yourself hydrated well. Okay, the second thing, and I see that with a lot of people that I work with, is blood sugar regulation. So when our blood sugar moves up and down too drastically in the course of the day, that's when you get these energy spikes and drops. And I think most people can relate to it, in the form of like the typical rice coma or the heavy meal coma, when you have eaten too much bread or rice and, suddenly you feel like, I need a nap. So regulating your blood sugar levels is really crucial, making sure that you don't get those upswings and those downswings, but that your blood sugar stays fairly stable throughout the day. And one, easy thing to remember is the concept of fat, fiber, and protein, FFP. So anything that you eat, always make sure that you combine it with a source of fat, a source of protein, and a source of fiber. So that, because what that does is it helps to absorb blood sugar into the bloodstream a little bit more slowly and gradually. So you avoid those really huge ups and downs. So for example, fruit juice that you buy off the shelf is usually, lacking fiber, and that gives your blood sugar a huge spike. But if you were to have a whole piece of fruit that has fiber in it, and that helps to kind of reduce those, big spikes. So just as an example, or you take, if you're eating an apple and you put a little bit of almond butter on it, for example, that is again the combination of fat, fiber, and protein. It helps to stabilize our blood sugar levels a little bit more. So yeah, that's just a simple and easy trick and tip. And then, yeah, the third one I think would be going back to what we talked about, gut health. I think if you support your gut, because what people don't really realize is that the microbes that live within our digestive tract, they actually produce certain metabolites or certain compounds when they're eating the food that we're eating. Yeah, it may be a little bit complicated, but basically they produce certain things that are used as an energy source for us as humans. So what you want to make sure is that you're feeding the gut microbes that are in your digestive tract. You want to make sure, again, like I mentioned, that you're keeping your gut healthy and strong, and that you're eating, that your food is being absorbed properly and broken down properly. And so, yeah, gut health is super important. And the tips that I can give with respect to that would be prebiotic rich foods. And for people that don't know what that means, it's basically the foods that are very rich in fiber. Prebiotics are essentially fibers. They're essentially food for the bacteria that live in our digestive tract. So fiber rich things. And then the other thing is, the probiotic foods that are rich in, like fermented foods, yogurt, things that hold those beneficial bacteria. That can be very helpful as well. So yeah, those are the three things really that I would think are helpful for people to know in order to support their energy levels. Have you kind of, is there anything in there that is new, or what do you think?
A little bit like the combination of the different nutrients in your food. That's pretty new to me, to make sure that, you allow the body to digest it better, and also to break down the different ingredients so they can be better absorbed. So I think this is one of the key messages I'm taking out of this. And I'm also wondering, how important is it to when we eat and how often we eat along the day? Is that also totally individual?
Yeah, it is. And that again is something that really depends on the person initially. I think from a general perspective, there is enough evidence and research out there that supports, keeping a decent amount of time in between meals. So this whole concept of intermittent fasting, making sure that you leave a good gap between your dinner, or between the dinner the previous night and your breakfast the next morning, or go straight for lunch, for example. It has enormous amount of health benefits. But then again, not everybody is ready to go there immediately. So if you have somebody who has these blood sugar dysregulation issues, you can't immediately put them on an intermittent fasting approach, for example. So it's something that you could work towards. And also, I think we've come out of a phase, with respect to nutrition, where people were talking about eating small meals and eating them frequently. And I think that had something to do with the regulation of blood sugar levels for those people that need that. But what current research is telling us is that we need more of spacing between meals. Yeah.
And during these breaks, I understand that the body is given the time to digest, to work with the food, to work with the ingredients, and to break them down into what it needs. If you continuously eat, then there is no time for the body to do its actual work.
Yeah. So there is this mechanism in our digestive tract called the migrating motor complex. And that is kind of, I like to call it the housekeeper of the gut. It sweeps out food, bacteria, all the things that need to be swept out through the digestive tract. And it does that after a meal. And it takes on average, I think, about 4 hours or so for that process to take place. The moment you put something into your mouth, you completely stop that migrating motor complex. So basically what it means is that it can't do its job fully. So that again is one of the reasons that we want to space our meals, and we leave a little bit of gap between meal 1 and meal 2 for this process to happen effectively.
And what about drinking? I imagine drinking water, you can and have to do it at all times, these 8 glasses at a minimum, and tea should be fine, like herbal tea as well. But of course, no soft drinks or nothing with sugar in it anyway. And you should pay attention to that.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, those are things that are, very general concepts. You want to be, again, let me just sort of, use one of the principles that I follow: eat food, not too much, and mostly plants. And that is actually from a researcher out of the US called Michael Pollan. He's written some amazing books on nutrition and food and many other topics as well. And so what he came up with, after doing a lot of research on what is the ideal diet, he came up with these 3 principles. He said you have to eat food, and what he means is, like, it has to be food. You have to be able to recognize it. You have to be able to look on your plate and see that, and know actually, or be able to see where that food has originated from. So, and what that means is that anything that comes out of a package that's usually processed, that's no longer real food, right? So eat whole foods. That's principle number 1. Secondly, don't eat too much. I think again, plenty of research, plenty of data available about the detrimental effects of having too much food and overeating. Calorie restriction, in fact, is one of these longevity boosters. A lot of research coming out on that as well. And then the third, I think, aspect is mostly plants. And that doesn't mean that you can't eat, animal foods, but plants are an essential component of our diet, right? What I mean by that is that eating a rainbow, making sure that you eat a variety of different plant foods, making sure that when you are looking at your plate, you actually see that rainbow, that you get all the colors in there. It's got all the nutrients, micronutrients, it's got phyto, the plant-based nutrients, it's got all the food that the bacteria in our gut really love. So plants are really an essential component of everybody's diet. And then, sugar, and you mentioned that already, but sugar is really not good for us. So cutting down on anything that is high in sugar, maybe a little bit of natural sugar in the form of fruits is okay, but you don't want to go overboard on eating too much of refined sugar, if at all. I'm not a fan. I don't think you shouldn't be. Yeah.
And to add to your recommendations, what I'm trying is to eat food which has the least ingredients. Like an apple has 1 ingredient, which is the apple. But if you're looking at these boxes of unrecognizable food in the supermarket, it has such a long list of ingredients. So less is better.
Yeah, and half of those ingredients we don't even really understand, right, when we read them. Yeah.
Well, if you don't understand the ingredients, then don't eat it, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, totally true. That's a great, kind of rule to follow, is look at the ingredients list, make sure that it's only got a few, make sure that whatever is written there, you actually understand, actually know what it is and what it is that you're eating.
Yeah. Very important what we put into our own body. I think everybody should spend a little bit of time. It's not so much time after all, just check it like you explained, and it's pretty easy to follow. So thank you so much for these tips. I think it sounds complex, but anyway, Monique, where can people...
I'm laughing because I get on a soapbox and there are things that I work with daily. I'm sometimes buried in research, which is so high level that I know I can get carried away and talk about things, that people may not even really fully know a whole lot about. So I hope that it wasn't too over the top.
Yeah, I think that's nice about your tips today, that people can easily follow them and don't need any research, but can just act on what you explained. Thank you very much. How can people read more about what you're actually doing and get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's just my name, MoniqueJhingon.com. That's where they can actually read a lot of. I have, I think by now, about more than 250 articles on there that I've written. So a lot of really good information and recipes and on various health related topics. So that's a great place to go. And then as far as social media is concerned, I'm quite active on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a good place to connect with me. And Instagram as well. Like I said, I'm more active on LinkedIn at the moment. So that's where you will see more of me and my tips and my articles pass by. Yeah. Okay. But those are basically the three elements.
Excellent. I will link everything in the show notes so people can click on there and get in touch with you, whomever wants. Thank you so much, Monique, for your expertise, for being my guest today, for sharing the tips. And
thank you for having me, Kirsten. And I love your topic and I love what it is that you're doing, and keep doing it. And I think helping people to boost, their health, their performance is just, a great service to the world in general. Can you hear the children outside? Sorry.
Yes, we can. This is the online era.
I know.
Yeah. Fully agree. Nice closing words to help people in this world to get more energy. I think this is your mission and my mission as well. And and like we said initially, performance means something different to each and every individual. And that's the beauty in our coaching, that we can look at the individual.
Yeah. That's really important in the work that we do, I feel. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kirsten.